I didn't hear the door open. I just heard her voice. "You left this last time," she said. And when I turned, she was already standing inside the bathroom. I froze. The steam from the shower was still curling around me, my towel barely slung around my waist. Her silhouette was calm, composed, backlit by the soft hallway light. She held something in her hand. My gray t-shirt, crumpled like it had been forgotten in a corner. Her eyes flicked over me, once, and then locked on mine. She didn't blink. "I thought you might want it," she added. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. Not immediately. I glanced at the shirt, then back at her. Thanks." She smiled faintly. "You're welcome." Then she placed the shirt on the counter and stepped out, closing the door behind her without another word. The lock clicked softly. Too softly. Let me back up. I hadn't seen Jake in over a year. Not since we both left for college and drifted the way guys do when there's distance, new cities, new routines. We still texted now and then. Mostly dumb memes and, "Bro, you won't believe what happened" messages. But this summer, out of nowhere, he invited me to crash at his place for a few days. "Come chill. Parents are cool with it," he wrote. "We've got a grill now." It was supposed to be nothing. Just old friends catching up. When I got there, his dad was away on some work thing and his mom, Claire, was the one who opened the door. She looked exactly like I remembered, and somehow completely different. Same hazel eyes, same dark blonde hair pulled up in that casual twist she always wore. But she carried herself differently now. Relaxed, sure of herself. The kind of woman who didn't need to prove anything. "Look at you," she said, smiling. "You're taller than Jake now." I laughed. "I don't think so." She gave me that same smile she used to give when we were kids. But it lingered a second too long. Then she stepped aside and let me in. Jake came downstairs a minute later in gym shorts and socks, already holding 2 sodas. We spent most of the afternoon on the back deck, catching up. Music, grilled burgers, nothing dramatic. Claire brought out lemonade at one point, barefoot, tan, and glowing in the late afternoon light. I told myself I wasn't looking, but I was. That night I showered late. Jake had already gone to bed. He was wiped from an early morning shift at his part-time job. The upstairs hallway was quiet when I padded to the bathroom with my towel over my shoulder and my phone in hand. The water was hot. Steam rose fast, curling around the edges of the mirror. I let the tension run out of my arms as I stood under the spray, trying to forget how Claire had looked when she laughed at dinner, or how she'd touched my wrist for just a second too long when passing the salad. I dried off quickly, not bothering to get fully dressed. Just wrapped the towel around my waist, leaned into the mirror, and wiped away a circle of fog with my palm. That's when the door opened, and Claire walked in. After she left, I stood there for a full minute, not moving. My shirt, the one I didn't even remember leaving behind, sat folded beside the sink. It wasn't damp. It hadn't just been picked up off the floor. She'd been holding onto it, waiting. Or maybe I was imagining that part. Maybe I was reading into things. Maybe it was nothing. But I didn't believe that. Not after the way she looked at me. The next morning was quieter than the day before. Jake was gone early again. Something about helping his uncle move furniture across town. I came downstairs around 10, still in gym shorts and a hoodie. Claire was in the kitchen. Her back was to me, hair down this time, wearing a long, soft robe that hugged her hips and stopped just above the knee. She was making eggs, humming something under her breath. An old jazz song, I think. There was coffee already poured. Without turning, she said, "Your shirt fits you better now." I stopped in the doorway. "What?" She glanced over her shoulder and smiled. "The gray one. I remember it being looser on you last summer." My throat went dry. Right? I guess I grew. She turned back to the stove, flipping the eggs. Looks good on you. I didn't know how to respond, so I sat down. She brought over a plate without asking and placed it in front of me. Then poured coffee into a second mug and joined me at the table. We ate in near silence, the only sounds the occasional scrape of a fork or sip of coffee. But I could feel her watching me between glances, studying. When we finished, she stood, took my plate and said, "I'm glad you came." There was something about the way she said it. Not polite, not casual, just direct. Jake didn't come back until late afternoon. We hung out in the den playing old Xbox games while Claire stayed upstairs. When I asked if she was coming down for dinner, Jake just shrugged. "She said she's tired," he said. "Probably taking a nap." I nodded, but I wasn't convinced. Later that night, I found myself in the bathroom again. Same towel, same steam, same quiet. But this time, I locked the door. Or at least I thought I did. Because just as I reached for my toothbrush, I heard the knob turn. And then stop, followed by a soft knock. A pause. Then her voice. "Sorry," Claire said from the other side of the door. "Just checking if you needed more towels." I didn't answer right away, and she didn't wait. I heard her footsteps retreating down the hall, slow, measured, each one echoing just enough to leave something behind. I stared at the mirror, and for the first time, I asked myself the question I'd been avoiding all day. Was this really just a coincidence? Or was she leaving the door open on purpose? I didn't bring it up the next morning. Neither did she. But the energy between us shifted. Every movement, every glance, it all felt sharper now. Not like something new had started, but like something had been going on all along, and only now I'd noticed, or let myself notice. Jake had another full day out, helping his uncle finish that moving job, then meeting friends at the skate park. "You don't have to wait up," he said, grabbing his keys. "I might crash at Connor's." Claire came downstairs a few minutes after he left. Hair tied up in a loose knot. Simple t-shirt, soft jeans. No makeup. Effortless. "Good morning," she said. "Morning." She reached for the coffee pot and filled her mug. "Jake said you might be on your own tonight." "Yeah. Sounds like he's got a busy day." She raised an eyebrow. "Guess it's just you and me then." Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten just a bit. I nodded. "Looks like it." Claire didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then, "Do you cook?" I shrugged. "Enough to not starve." She smiled. "Good. You're helping me with dinner." We started around 6. Nothing fancy. Roasted chicken, pasta, something green she insisted on adding for color. We moved around the kitchen like people who'd done it before, even though we hadn't. She passed me a bowl, I handed her a spoon. Our hands brushed more than once. The third time I didn't move away. Neither did she. Music played quietly from the speaker near the window. Some soft indie playlist she had running on shuffle. Her humming drifted over the simmering sauce. The smell of garlic filled the air. At one point, I caught her watching me while I stirred the pasta. "What?" Claire tilted her head. "You're different." I raised an eyebrow. "From what?" "From how I remember you." She leaned against the counter. "You used to blush every time I looked at you." "I was 16, I said, laughing nervously. "And now," I paused. "Now I'm not." She didn't look away. "No, you're not." I turned back to the stove, heart pounding. Behind me, she added, "It suits you." After dinner, we rinsed the dishes and wiped down the counters. The window was open slightly, letting in the warm summer air. Somewhere in the distance, someone was mowing their lawn. It felt like the kind of night where time slowed down on purpose. Claire disappeared for a moment and came back holding a half-full bottle of wine and 2 glasses. I looked at them. Jake's not here. She gave me a look, amused, but unreadable. Jake doesn't drink red anyway. I meant, she poured. You're 21, aren't you? Yeah. She handed me a glass. Then relax. We sat on the couch, not close but not far. The TV was off. The only light came from the kitchen behind us, casting a warm glow across the room. We sipped quietly for a while. Then she broke the silence. I remember when you used to come over after school, she said. You'd sit at this exact table, eat peanut butter crackers, and talk about becoming a game designer. I chuckled. I barely remember that. I do. Do you remember Jake getting mad when I beat him at Mario Kart? She smiled. He still brings it up sometimes. I took another sip. Time moves weird, huh? Claire looked at me. You mean how kids turn into adults when you're not looking? I nodded. She studied me over the rim of her glass. I noticed the second you walked in. You're not a kid anymore. I didn't answer. She added softer. And I see the way you look at me. My fingers tightened slightly on the glass. Claire, you don't have to explain. She set her wine down. I'm not upset. I swallowed. I didn't mean. I'm not blind, she said, voice calm. Or stupid. You think I haven't felt it, too? That silenced me. The air in the room changed. Denser now. Not heavy but full. Charged. Claire stood slowly, picking up her glass. I'm going to head up. I nodded, unsure of what else to do. She paused at the bottom of the stairs and looked back. You've grown up, she said. And I notice things. Then she turned and walked upstairs, leaving me alone in the quiet. I didn't sleep well. I kept thinking about the way she'd looked at me, the way her voice softened when she said that last line. I lay on the guest bed, staring at the ceiling, listening for any sound from the hallway. None came, at least not yet. But in my chest, I already knew something had started. Something that wouldn't be undone by morning. The next morning felt slow. Not heavy, just slow. Jake still hadn't come home. His text from late last night just said, crashing here. Don't wait. That was it. Claire didn't come downstairs right away. I sat in the kitchen alone for a while, scrolling through my phone, replaying the night in my head like a movie I wasn't sure I was allowed to watch again. Around 10, I heard her steps on the stairs. Soft, measured, barefoot. She entered the kitchen like she always did. Casual, relaxed. But something in her eyes had changed. Not warmer, not colder. Just sharper. Good morning, she said, moving to the coffee machine. Morning. She opened a cabinet, paused, and said without turning, I have a favor to ask. I raised an eyebrow. Sure. She finally looked at me. I want to rearrange the guest room closet. It's been bothering me for months. I nodded. Want help? That's the favor. I smiled. Lead the way. The guest room wasn't the one I was staying in. It was across the hall, smaller, less lived in. The closet was already half open, with a few boxes stacked awkwardly near the bottom. Claire pulled her hair up as we entered, tying it in a loose twist with a hair tie from her wrist. Her shirt lifted slightly, just enough to expose a line of skin above her waist. I looked away quickly, too quickly. She knelt beside a box. This one needs to go up top. It's light, just awkward. I grabbed it, stood on tiptoe, and slid it onto the upper shelf. When I turned back, she was watching me, still on her knees. You've gotten strong, she said. I tried to laugh it off. College gyms. Ma'am. She stood slowly, brushing her hands on her thighs. Next one's heavier. She moved toward another box, but as she leaned down, the collar of her shirt loosened slightly, and again my eyes betrayed me. Just for a second. She noticed and didn't say anything. Instead, she said, "Do you remember the last time you stayed here?" I nodded. "A few years ago. Summer break. You were 17. Yeah." She looked at me now, really looked. "You wouldn't even make eye contact back then." I hesitated. I didn't know how. Claire took a small step closer. "And now," my throat felt dry. "Now I do." We stood there for a moment. The air between us was full of things that didn't need to be spoken out loud. She reached to adjust a crooked picture frame on the wall beside the closet, brushing past me as she did. Her shoulder touched mine. Barely. But she didn't move away. Neither did I. She turned her head, her lips close to my ear, and said very quietly, "That shirt? The one you left behind?" I nodded. "I didn't wash it." I blinked. "Why?" She stepped back, just enough to meet my eyes. "Because it smelled like you." My heart stuttered in my chest. She smiled faintly, almost to herself. "That's probably inappropriate." I didn't know what to say. Then she added, still soft, "But I liked it." Later that afternoon, we ended up in the living room again. The house was silent, curtains drawn against the sun. The light was soft, amber, like late evening had arrived early. Claire stood at the bookshelf, running her fingers along the spines. "You read?" she asked. "Some." She pulled a slim novel off the shelf. "This one's beautiful, quiet, slow burn, like everything meaningful is under the surface." She handed it to me. Her fingers touched mine, and this time, she didn't pull away. "You ever feel like people talk too much?" she said. I nodded slowly. "Yeah." She smiled. "Good." Then she turned and walked upstairs without another word. I held the book in my hands, barely reading the title. The silence she left behind was louder than any conversation. That evening, I heard her call from the second floor. "Hey!" I stepped out into the hall. "Yeah. Do you mind helping me move something in my room?" I paused, then climbed the stairs. Her bedroom door was open. She stood near the far window, pointing to a small bench she wanted moved. "Just need it shifted to the left." I nodded and stepped inside. She didn't move out of the way. I brushed past her to get to the bench and again, too close, too aware. I bent to move it. She watched. "Thanks," she said. Once it was in place, I turned. We were too close now. Not in that accidental way. In the deliberate, unspoken, "no one's going to call this a mistake" way. And then, slowly, very quietly, she reached behind me and pushed the door closed. It didn't slam. It didn't even latch loudly. It just clicked. She stepped back and sat on the edge of the bed, one hand on her lap, the other tracing the hem of her sleeve. She didn't look up right away, but when she did, her eyes didn't blink. "You're not confused," she said. I shook my head. "No." "Good." She looked down again, then said, "I don't want you to pretend you don't feel it." I took a breath. "I'm not pretending." She finally smiled, not smug, not coy, just honest. "I didn't think you'd say that," she whispered. Then she nodded toward the chair across from her bed. "Sit." I sat. She didn't move. We didn't speak. The silence in that room held more meaning than 100 conversations. The curtains moved gently in the wind. The door was still closed, and neither of us asked if it was locked. The room was still, not silent in a cold way, more like everything inside had taken a breath and held it. Claire sat on the edge of the bed, one leg crossed over the other, her fingers resting on her knee like she was waiting for something to happen or not happen. I sat in the chair across from her, not slouched, not tense, just present. You didn't ask why I closed the door, she said finally. I didn't need to. Her lips curled slightly. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? She looked down, brushed a wrinkle out of her skirt. Someone who would panic. Get up. Walk out. I thought about it, I said. She looked up. But I didn't. No, she said softly. You didn't. A pause. Then she stood, walked to her dresser, opened the top drawer, pulled something out. When she turned, I recognized it instantly. The same gray shirt, the one I'd left, the one she said I forgot. She held it for a moment between her hands, then walked over and placed it in my lap. I lied, she said. I looked at her. About what? She didn't step back. I didn't just find it, kept it. I moved it from room to room. Sometimes it stayed in the laundry basket, sometimes on the chair, once under my pillow. My breath caught. She said it without shame. No apology, just honesty. I didn't know why I was doing it at first, she went on. But then you walked back into this house. Taller, quieter, not the boy I remembered. I'm not, I said. No, you're not. She sat again. Not on the bed this time, on the arm of the chair I was sitting in. Close enough that her knee brushed my shoulder. Her hand rested gently on the edge of the seat. You've been looking at me since the day you got here, she said. I didn't deny it. And you think I didn't notice. Or maybe you were hoping I did. Still no answer. I'm not going to play a role here, she said. I'm not going to pretend I don't know what this is. What is it? She looked at me. Something fragile. Something dangerous. Something I haven't felt in years. A beat passed. Then another. Then, say something. I swallowed. I didn't plan for any of this. I know. I didn't expect you to feel the same. Claire smiled faintly. Most people don't see me anymore. Not really. I do. Her eyes met mine again. Not guarded. Not testing. Just open. She nodded. That's why you're still in this room. She stood once more and walked slowly to the closet. Opened it. Took out a small cardboard box. From inside, she pulled out an old photograph. It was me and Jake, and maybe 13, sitting on the back deck, grinning, holding melted popsicles. She was in the background of the photo, blurry, mid-laugh. She held it up. You were just a kid, she said. And now, she turned the photo toward herself. Now you're something else. She walked over, handed me the photo. I took it, felt heavier than it looked. I keep things, she said. Shirts, photos, moments. She sat beside me this time, not on the chair's arm, right beside me, knee to knee, shoulder to shoulder. I kept this because I didn't want to forget who you were back then, she said. And now I don't want to forget who you are now. We sat like that for a long time, not moving, just breathing, the shirt still in my lap, the photo in my hand. At some point, she reached over and traced a line on my wrist with her thumb. Absent-minded, light, but it sparked something in my chest I couldn't explain. You're quiet, she whispered. I'm afraid to say the wrong thing. You haven't yet. Another pause. Then she leaned in, not closer, just enough to speak near my ear. I need to know this isn't a game to you. It's not. Not a moment you'll walk away from like it was nothing. I won't. Her hand moved, slowly, to the center of my chest, over the gray shirt. I see you, she said. I need you to know that. I know. And then softer. Do you regret being here? No. Do you want to leave? No. She exhaled. Not in relief. In release. She stood up, walked to the door, and unlocked it, then turned back to me. This house can't know what this room knows, she said. I nodded. She looked at me for a long time, then stepped aside. You can go, she said, but I didn't move. I looked at the shirt in my lap, held it, then stood. I walked past her slowly, and just before crossing the threshold, I asked, was it really just about the shirt? She didn't answer immediately. Then, very softly, no. I nodded and stepped out. The door clicked shut behind me, but the weight of it stayed on my shoulders long after it closed. The morning light felt wrong, too bright, too clean, like it had no idea what happened in the quiet hours before it arrived. I sat at the edge of the guest bed, shirt in hand, the same gray one, but I hadn't put it on yet. My suitcase was mostly zipped. My phone was charged. My ride was 10 minutes out. I was leaving, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do with that. Downstairs, I heard the soft clink of a mug being placed on the counter. Then the fridge door. Then nothing. Claire was awake, and I was out of time. I came down the stairs slowly, every step like a breath I hadn't released. She was at the kitchen table, hair pulled back again, wearing a loose sweatshirt and leggings. Comfortable, neutral, coffee in hand, calm. When she saw me, she smiled. Not in that usual, easy way. This one looked practiced. You heading out? I nodded. Yeah. Uber's almost here. She gestured to the chair across from her. Sit for a second. I sat. She pushed a second mug toward me. Didn't know how you take it. So, just black. Black's fine. A beat of silence. Then she said, I didn't sleep much. Me neither. She looked down at her hands, then back up. I don't want you to leave confused. I'm not. I mean about what last night was. I'm not, I said again. I know what it was. She studied me for a moment. I've made mistakes before, but I never want to be someone's regret. You're not. She exhaled, like that mattered more than she'd admit. You'll forget this, she said quietly. In a week, maybe 2. You'll be back at school, your life full again. That's not true. She raised an eyebrow. Isn't it? No, I said. I won't forget it. I don't want to. Claire looked at me, really looked, and I saw something shift in her expression. Less guarded, more vulnerable. She nodded slowly. You've always surprised me. I think you wanted me to. That made her smile. A small one. Real. She stood and walked to the counter, picking something up. A folded piece of paper. She handed it to me. Directions to the train station, she said. In case you change your mind and want to come back the long way. I took it. Her fingers lingered on mine just a second too long. Then let go. The Uber text came. I stood. She walked with me to the front door. I stepped out onto the porch, the sun already warming the pavement. My bag in one hand, the paper in the other. I turned. She stood in the doorway, barefoot, backlit by the hallway behind her. You take care of yourself, she said. You too. I hesitated, then turned, started down the path. 5 steps, 10. The Uber was idling near the curb. I stopped, looked at the car, then at the sky, then back at the house. I turned around, walked back to the porch. Claire hadn't moved. When I reached her, I held up the gray shirt. I forgot this again. She didn't smile. She just stepped aside. I walked past her, into the quiet hallway, and this time, I was the one who closed the door and locked it